Brian, how you doing? I think this will be a good conversation between you and Cross. So what did you want to talk about?
Hi, gentlemen. Yeah, I heard Cross mention earlier Moms for Liberty and book bans and things like that. And I lived in a small town in Nebraska. We had a school board member who's associated with Moms for Liberty get elected to our local school board and immediately tried to start removing books from the school libraries that have LGBTQ themes, that present minorities in a positive light and Christianity perhaps in a negative light. And I just wanted to talk to Cross about some of the tactics that I've found that these folks use.
Sure.
And
can I just say real quick, thank you, Ryan, for calling in, because Cross is a perfect day for that. So I always love when that like matches up and somebody calls in and they're like, oh, this is perfect for this time. So thank you so much for calling in on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I wasn't sure there if you had tactics that you specifically wanted to mention first. Did you have any specifically you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, specifically the first one that I've noticed is what they do is they pick out, like dirty words that are in these books that have LGBTQ themes, et cetera. And then they start calling it pornography and obscene when it's really just maybe one passage.
Yep. Yeah, and the comment I have on that one is that turnabout is fair play. So there's multiple layers involved here. At a very high level, the executive has been charged, the executive, the governor, or the county councilman, whoever's in charge of this jurisdiction, has been charged with creating an agency that's the library and holding books, or this public school who has books. And so that agency is using administrative law to make these decisions. Now, they still have to follow the Constitution, which means you have a First Amendment right not to be discriminated against based on the content of your speech. So if you have published a book and the school is refusing to shelve it because of the content, now you're going to move into a whole bunch of discussions. And the courts have held that age matters. You're not going to have a pornographic magazine on the shelf of a library where young kids can get at it. But beyond that, things should be, and have in the past tended to be, if it's got any academic value, then the state can make a argument that it is in our interest to educate our citizenry, and they don't have to go into what's called strict scrutiny to try to find out why they're putting this book on the shelf or removing it. What you have pointed out is exactly what the Christians have been good at for many years, which is alarmist, pearl-clutching category errors, so to speak. This book contains a word, therefore it is in and of itself pornography. The reason I said turnabout is fair play is you may have heard recently, I believe it was in Utah, that a local group of protesters protesting against this trend got the Bible banned from school, saying, okay, if you're going to have a policy that says you can't have books that depict certain things or have certain words, the Bible depicts those things much more than these books you're pulling off, therefore you can't have it. And that is a pattern that you get over and over and over again, where people try to get the government to enforce their own morality by increasing the size of the bubble they're drawing, right? Okay, any book that has this word is now pornography. Oh, I just captured the Bible. The Bible's out of school too. So the policy may be okay. Like they may legally be able to say, yeah, we're going to have to shelve any book that has this word in it. But then the Bible is going to fall into that. The details matter. So case by case, you're going to have to look and see what the actual argument is, and they're all going to have to go through trial. Somebody's going to have to sue to say, hey, you are violating the First Amendment here. And that's their game. They play flood the zone. Let's do this in every single library, every single school, and it's going to be exhausting defending it. But we have to have people like the Freedom from Religion Foundation and other organizations, the ACLU, who will go out there and fight the good fight and push back against it. I'm not sure if that answers your question on that tactic, but what are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. And I completely agree that, and we've pointed it out to some of these folks that, and I feel that I tend to know the Bible better than they do in some cases, but we point out that the Bible has passages about fondling breasts and having genitals the size of donkeys and emissions like horses. And my issue with that, and I mean this with all due respect, is I don't want books banned. I don't want the Bible banned from schools because it's important reference material for academic study. And so maybe that's not the tactic that I would prefer to take is, well, you ban ours, we'll ban yours. Is there any other perhaps tactic that would be more successful in less of a two wrongs make a right type?
Sure. Yeah, the two wrongs make a right is sort of a ironic result that you end up with. There was a similar case where Christians wanted to advertise religion on the buses. I believe this was down in Texas. So they said, okay, we had a policy that said no religious advertising in any type. So they allowed it. And the atheists jumped right in and had buses going around saying there is no God. And the Christians very quickly said, oops. And then they rolled back the policy. So it's fun to watch that. But I get what you're saying is like, do we have to play that game? And the answer is no. There's obviously the political solution of who's your representative and all of that sort of stuff. But from a legal perspective, you can hold these people accountable if they're doing things improperly or unconstitutionally. But as I said before, the lawsuits are exhausting. You first have to exhaust it under administrative law in most states and jurisdictions. You're going to have to exhaust the administrative process first. They're going to have a whole bunch of policies and procedures as to how they enacted the policy, and you can attack that saying, hey, you didn't follow the rules, it wasn't proper notice, you didn't get comments, all of that sort of stuff. And then you have to appeal through their own internal administrative courts if they have them. And only once you've exhausted all of that will a court agree to start hearing your case. So it's even more than just, I have to sue you. It's, I have to go through the channels first. Then once I get an opinion or decision from the agency involved, the schools or the library or whatever, that I think is still violative of the Constitution, then I can go to court and start the process of suing there. And meanwhile, they're doing it in every school, and it's been one election cycle, and they've achieved their goal of saying, hey, I'm banning books, and that's why they're doing it. They don't care if they end up losing in the long run, quite frankly. They all the time, especially at the state level, representatives will do things they know are blatantly unconstitutional and violates the oath that they swore to uphold in exchange for support from their base. So the ways that you do it are you go after using lawsuits, you inform, you protest, you publicize, you get reporters going out about it, because the law isn't always just a trial. The law is who has the motivation and the resources to go to trial. You exhaust your administrative abilities. And then, yes, if they are going to end up winning because they have the power constitutionally to draw a line somewhere, you hold them to that new line, i.e., we're going to ban the Bible.
That's awesome. I wish I could tell you how much I appreciate this, and I'm so glad that it's going to be on YouTube for posterity, so I can go back and listen again. I've been involved in a petition to recall this member, and I've been called a child molester. I've been called a groomer, and all sorts of heinous shit. That's another tactic that I was going to bring up that they use is they make that straw man fallacy of, well, if you're trying to recall this member, that just means that you want porn in schools. And it's so despicably disgusting, the tactic.
Absolutely. And then we'll use that tactic even when it doesn't involve books. You may recall a young lady named Jessica Alquist years ago attended a public school where the 10 Commandments had been on the wall of the gymnasium for as long as people remembered. And she said, you're not allowed to do that. Please stop. They end up going to court, and a state representative, I think this was in Jersey, called her an evil little thing, made a personal attack on a high school girl because she said, hey, you should follow the law. And that is the mentality we end up with a lot in this scenario. And when you combine that with the misinformation that is now flying around the internet, you get a lot of people misunderstanding the law, misunderstanding the legal process, and just following their leaders. Oh, this guy says that this young teeny girl who's asking the state to follow the law is an evil little thing. She must be an evil little thing. She had to have police protection around the clock for months because of her just saying, you swore to uphold the law. Could you please do it? Thankfully, she's okay. She became a great public speaker and all that. But yes, it is a tactic that they do to demonize the people who are just saying, hey, you want to use the law to do things. Well, we don't want to use the law to do things too. And we all agree to, theoretically, the Constitution. So let's follow it. And they show their true colors when it affects their religious beliefs that are held so deeply that they are willing to put their Bible above their Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Ryan. We're going to try to get to these other calls. Does that help? Do you have anything else that you want to add? I don't want to just shoo you off, but I want to get these other calls as well out of the way. But I want to make sure that you feel satisfied with these responses.
I most certainly do. Yeah, it's great to talk to someone who's very knowledgeable about this and get some advice. And like I said, it's on YouTube in perpetuity, so I can go back and listen again. Just thank you both. Thanks for having me on the show, and thanks for letting me talk about this topic. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling.
Well, I did a lot in that call, you
need to slow down there.
Mike. to show, my expertise on the topic.
No, it's a fascinating topic. I could go on forever. And the ultimate answer is the wheels of justice turn. They turn slowly, but they turn. And so donate to Freedom from Religion Foundation, ACLU. They're the people that can use the legal remedies, but there's other remedies, which is protesting, talking, educating, things like that.
Jmike, I'm a philosophy nerd also, so I always appreciate calls that you're involved in aside from this topic. So
this is the important topic, though, right? So there's fun, like I was telling Cross, like there's fun in philosophy and it's great and stuff, but this is really where the rubber meets the road, right? Where these beliefs become informing of actions that people are taking. And so this is way more important this comes right after all the armchair stuff that you want to do. It's fun and great, but there's a real it exists outside the armchair, right? It extends beyond the armchair, and that's what's actually important. So we really appreciate your call, Ryan.